Please do.
All right. Pat's got it. So I'm going to call the Monday, May 2nd, 2022 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. Can we all please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So I do not have any announcements this evening, so we'll jump right into it. The first item is to review and discuss warrant articles prior to town meeting and possible votes. So is this going, we're going to do this the usual way with the town meeting, right? Like Keith's just going to present the warrant articles as they go through and...
That's what he had said when he came in.
Yeah. I think we're going to end up skipping over some of the zoning board stuff, and because the planning board desires to amend the proposed language in a manner that is outside the scope of the town meeting warrant. So Keith is going to rule those amendments out of order. So it's likely we'll skip over the solar bylaw for sure.
Okay.
And then Tim is aware of Pat and Willie Wallace might be angling to speak on the issue of the acceptance of the gift from St. Albert from 1952. She gave properties at the time. So that's what I know of. Other than that, I think he's going to plow through it. That's what he said at your meeting. He was going to take motions from the floor, he was going to combine some things, he's going to do
Is there any other gotchas that we might need to know about?
I haven't heard anything unless you have the budget or anything.
No, just a bunch of chatter about the 15,000 that went through last year. I don't know why everybody's confused about this year.
Increase in the selectmen's budget.
Oh, that come up?
Huh?
Is that coming up?
Oh, yeah.
The Hughes now.
Question I do have about this is where they want to change the wording of the bylaws, the proposed bylaw changes, on the definitions. Now, they waited until the 28th. We sent this out for printing on the 14th. Is that normal? Or is that allowed?
It is allowed because they can come back with a report that says they recommend it as printed in the warrant. They're not going to, they're going to strike one section. Right? As far as Keith's concerned, it might be within the scope of the article because the part that's being kept is the part that was published. You have the word to change. No, it's not good form. Really, those zoning changes should have been brought forward a lot earlier than they
That were affecting our major projects though, anyway, right?
No, all it was just the
So-
diagrams and the height of the building. And instead of saying grounds, they create the legitimate changes, but just to come that way in the process is kind of confusing for everybody that's looking at this thing they got mailed out.
It's not normal, but it's also not uncommon.
Okay. We've had last minute reports from the planning board on the floor town meeting. But a third of the time. Usually they pick it up at last minute.
All right. Is there anything else on the warrant articles? Seeing as nothing. Review and authorize the town administrator to sign finalized ACO intermunicipal agreement and possible votes. So Matt, that was the email that you had sent out where he was asking that we enter into the agreement and you thought it was a little out of scope or outside of your wheelhouse to sign off on the agreement for the
I don't think I
animal
have the
control.
authority to bind the town to other towns in a cooperative agreement like this. I think you do. You can authorize me to sign it, but really only after being authorized by you to approve it. Because it's a 3-year, so this is a 3-year deal, right?
similar to the previous one that we had?
No. So this is gonna increase our operating budget by about $38,000 a year. In fiscal '24, fiscal '23, we have a grant, a regionalization grant that's gonna cover our expenses. Because that's which led us. But we now have, we'll be using the shelter in Blackstone. We will have 2, not 1, full-time animal control officers. We will have a weekend part-timer, and we will have on-call part-timers. So there's going to be a structure for 24/7, 365 coverage for animal control, which is very different.
Where's the offices based out of?
The host community is Uxbridge.
I just heard it was Blackstone.
Yeah.
Like this.
Now, we brought Blackstone into this because we want the shelter, because their shelter apparently is owned by some sort of charity, 501c3, basically donating the use of it to the town.
It's a non-kill shelter, right?
I don't ask questions like that.
Do we know if our current ACO is part of this agreement?
Yes, it is.
I think there's a provision in there that if there was anything that came up with 60 days notice, you could throw out the agreement. But there is protection in there.
I mean, think that our coverage is a good thing. So I don't have any objections to it. Does anybody else?
Want a motion?
Yes, please.
I make a motion to authorize the town administrator to enter into intermunicipal agreement with the animal control officer.
Do we want to second it?
Sure. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Review and ratify temporary appointment of fill-in building inspector John Couture and possible votes.
If there's any questions about this, Ken told me he'd be in Florida and out of state for a full week. And he felt that we were so busy, he needed somebody to fill in for him, so he got Mr. Kuchar to agree. Mr. Kuchar is a longtime building commissioner in Sutton and the former chairman of the BBRS. John's very knowledgeable about the code, does a nice job and such. So, it's not just his appointment, it's how he'll be paid. He'll be paid $50 per inspection. And he knows our budget is limited, so he's only gonna do those really pressing things that need to be taken care of. If there's closing that's been scheduled, or a lot of work is contingent upon completion of an inspection, crews are sitting there waiting. But Ken and John went over this in some great length. We really only have about enough money for 10 inspections for this week that we've done. The other piece of this, it is going to come into play because we've already had to do it, is that if John comes to the scene of an emergency, he will earn Ken's hourly rate for the hours of the scene.
Is it like Ken's otherwise not in town or available?
So I only made this appointment for this vacation time. I think we have to have a broader discussion about coverage in our office.
Yeah.
And how we want to put it in the budget and deal with it. I needed somebody immediately, so I just did this for May 1st through May 8th.
Makes sense. So we can put further discussion on that in the meeting after town meeting and kind of drill into it a little better, like for a more permanent solution.
Yeah. Remember, the budget for fiscal '23 does include a part-time salary for a permanent inspector. Not a commissioner, but a local permanent inspector. So we would theoretically, in fiscal '23, we'll work it out so there's always somebody on hand to do inspections. And we won't miss any guidelines, statutory guidelines.
That works.
You want it on the next agenda?
Yeah, please. So,
Mr. Chairman, on the next agenda, we also have SNAP coming in, so.
Yes,
Full meeting. Cool. SNAP trailer.
Oh,
discussion.
right.
So, maybe I want to eat.
I may not be in that's I might be in New York.
You can zoom in.
I can. I'd be happy to. All right, anybody want to make a motion on the fill-in building inspector? So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Review and approve grant listings and possible votes. So we have the Council on Aging, a legislative earmark of $25,000. Fire Department FY22 SAFE grant of $4,575. Fire Department FY22 SR SAFE grant for $2,855. FY20 Assistance to Firefighters grant for $238,095.24. Fire Department's FY21 EMPG of $2,900. And then for the Town of Douglas, we have the Commonwealth of Mass Department of Energy Resources for $104,947. The MassWorks Tri-Town Infrastructure Upgrade Project of $4 million. And the Commonwealth of Mass Site Readiness Grant of $314,850. Anybody care to make a motion of accepting the grants as listed previously? So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Discuss and approve procedures for ARPA funds and possible votes.
Mr. Chairman, today I drafted a memo for you to introduce the topic tonight. I don't know that the vote is ready, but first page of the memo is an explanation of how we got to where we are. The federal government's allowing us to recharacterize our entire ARPA award as quote-unquote revenue replacement. And the revenue replacement rules in the ARPA statute, or under the ARPA regulations, are very permissive. The spending may be used for any government service broadly defined. There are a couple of prohibitions, which are the usual, carnivals, alcohol, silly things that we don't spend money on anyway because they're prohibited in our bylaws. That being said, now you would need a process, because before it really was just water and wastewater and there wasn't a whole lot else we could do with it. So the process I'm suggesting, I outline in a chart on the second page of the memo, to try to get some final program done either by the end of June or early July. The funds have to be obligated no later than December 31st, 2024. So you have time. Having said that, to the extent that we might want to we might do a design build or some other longer term project, we have to obligate those funds fairly quickly in order to get them spent in time. I also not necessarily so sure we want to torture it, because I think people have been thinking about this for a long time. The one thing that I read today that kind of set me back because I wasn't keyed into it, we are only able to spend ARPA funds on expenses incurred on or after March 3rd, 2021, which may change our conversation with public safety around hazard pay during the early stages of the pandemic, because that was 2020. So, we might still be looking at this as a partial for extra time on the ambulance, staffing the second ambulance, which was a cost that we had to bear above and beyond, but we have other sources that we ask for that, like the reimbursed for the base wage. So, I'm not so sure where that's gonna go, but my thought is, we'll use the SharePoint, we'll use the application, which is page 3 of your memo. The key here is that this is not a capital improvement. It may, the grading system may look like a capital improvement grading system, that's the one thing I didn't do here. But it's, the thought process here, I think, is to go beyond or actually deeper into that process. There are really good projects around town that will never make the grade of capital improvement because the things that are ahead of them are public safety, highway, big trucks, big pieces of equipment, use up a lot of the budget. So a fairly important project, like a $30,000 telephone system improvement project for us in the schools, isn't gonna make the grade, but it's a very affordable thing, and will have do a lot to improve our effectiveness and efficiency. So that's the kind of project that should be queued up for ARPA. Things that we might not ever be able to fund, but that do a lot of good for the town. I'll leave it to the department heads to determine what meets their the grade on that. As far as the grading system goes, I wanted some guidance from you on what we want to do about that. You know, these things can be very subjective. There's not a lot of objective criteria that we can use. So I'll kind of kick it back to you, Mr. Chairman, and see what your members think about how they want to look at these projects. We don't want to supplant the capital improvement process. We don't want people to come in with a public safety concept that's going to blow everybody away using that rating system, because we already did the capital.
We got any thoughts on this one?
Well, yeah, you have, and I understand what Matt's saying as far as not trying to mix capital with it, but prior to you putting this out there, you actually have a good list of all the different things that we put up there. Because now if you ask, you could double the list, easy. So, things like in the phone system, the cafeteria tables that are in the primary school, extra kettles or whatever that's in these school systems. Because as you've shown during the pandemic, you do utilize it. So it's an important piece to be corrected. But it doesn't necessarily make the grading point to be graded to be done. So I would just suggest that everybody look at that and look at the current list that you have now. Maybe that would help you get to a point.
Yeah, there's a lot of items deep on that list there. Strong.
Should we score through those first?
It seemed to me so. Somebody's done some work already on it, so.
We need to duplicate efforts.
Oh, yeah, all the stuff's set. We went through a lot of trouble with the capital committee.
Now, the recommendation from consultant Tom Zadelis is we should try to tie the projects we fund as closely to the original mission of ARPA as we can, even if we're not required to. And his thought is, if anybody ever comes through with a single audit or a desk audit of an individual item, the closer if you explicitly tried to tie it back to something we learned from the pandemic, a weakness that was revealed, a capability we wish we had but didn't have, those things will be looked favorably upon and will probably, just get cleared. Whereas if we do it to plant petunias on Main Street,
Was the original intent infrastructure?
it was resilient infrastructure, so
I didn't know if it would be tied into like the roads and stuff like that, way maybe you could get some of these.
roads are now allowed. They are
It's
allowed.
in pretty tough shape.
Right.
You can eat up money
They
quicker,
weren't
but
before.
you might be able to get a little bit of a jump on right now if this goes through with what we put in there for less than 50% of what's recommended to do, so it might be a consideration.
So, for example, paving South Street's a pretty high priority. You can't pave it until you fix the stormwater. We don't have the money to fix the stormwater, even after this, if town meeting approves the funds tonight. it's a complicated issue, involves neighbors, we'll probably have to have an engineer to figure out where we're gonna dump the water, et cetera, et cetera. That could be a project that we do with ARPA, we fix the stormwater, we pave the street, down the South Street, for a very long time. Maybe. That's the kind of thing that we can still have.
For that culvert that's up on Depot Street.
Correct.
Just a consideration.
Yeah, because we
Those
have-
items are gonna eat up money,
Yeah.
large chunks of money real fast, but it's stuff I don't know how we get them covered. Otherwise.
The
we're
bridge on
looking at a
Depot Street-
5-year plan that's not even in there.
Yeah, the bridge on Depot Street will never get fixed unless we use chapter 90 or ARPA. It's too expensive.
I mean, I like the procedures that you put in front of us. I know we're cutting down to 4 minutes before the start of town meeting.
Well, we have the same discussion, but with the full board to try and map out where we're going. I know we want to get cracking on that, but we do have some time here to methodically think about these ARPA funds and where we want to be with it.
Do we want to put some of that, the capital information onto the selectmen?
Yeah, we can start to do that, like, just to, these dates, are not very important. What is important is the space in between the dates. I
Yeah.
think that's the appropriate. You know, you guys should get about 10 days to make comments. I want Tom to said about 10 days to come back. You should post your first hearing as a public hearing, so you get public input, and then make your final vote the meeting after that. That's more important than the actual dates. But yeah, we can post, we'll start an ARPA SharePoint, and you'll make your own house with your town address.
Do we want to table the discussion review TA evaluations until we have a full board? I think it would make sense.
I think it was actually penciled for the
I think we need
17th,
more
that's
than
my
12
error,
minutes.
yeah.
All right,
I only have one.
it's all right.
Usually the quick ones are better. So if you want to do it in 4 minutes for free.
So,
I mean, I like 4-minute dentist appointments,
Yeah.
4-minute doctor physicals.
all right, so we got
We're gonna skip all that stuff that we don't like.
approved minutes and possible votes.
I think we only have one, 7 minutes in
I believe so.
Two.
So
She got
two
me the
cents.
last one.
Oh, yeah, we got the 19th and the 5th.
The 5th and the 19th.
I'll make a motion that we approve both the April 5th and the April 19th meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. You have a report, Matt?
Let's go to town meeting.
That works.
That's
We
a
wanna make
report.
a- Is it, do you want to reconvene after town meeting or just adjourn?
I think you might want to adjourn.
We may want to,
Motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.